One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Inside Movies Galore. I am your host for the evening, and we are going to continue our martial arts mayhem as we delve into not too distant past, where we are in 1986 with John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China, starring Kurt Russell, Kim Cattrall, Dennis Dunn, and James Hong. And basically, the film tells the story of a trucker and his Chinese friend by the name of Wang Shi, as they end up having to go rescue this truck. Basically. But ultimately, it ends up dealing with an ancient Chinese curse and a green-eyed couple of ladies. And let's go and delve into our first impressions here. So, I'm gonna start with let's say you first. What were your first impressions of this film?
Okay, so I first saw this movie when I was I want to say 13. And I will straight up say right now, John Carpenter is my favorite filmmaker of all time. This is probably one of my top. This is probably one of my top 5 movies. I would definitely put this among my top 5 movies from him. I just love it's fun, it's action packed, it's funny. I love the music, both the score and also the theme at the end that was actually sung by Carpenter himself. I love all the quips from Kurt Russell. Actually, one thing I did find interesting that I didn't pick up on this as a teenager until I was a little older, or the fact that even though Kurt Russell has top billing and Jack Burton is he seems like he's the main protagonist of the movie, but it's really the more I think about it, the more I realize that Wang Shi is the true hero of the movie.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
He's the one doing all the. He's the one who, he's the one who has to get the girl. He has to get the girl, and does most of the ass kicking.
Well, yeah. As the film progresses, you realize that Kurt Russell, he's kind of just there to flex his muscles.
Yeah.
Comic relief.
Well, that's what I find kind
the
of
character of Jeff Bridges in The Big Lebowski, and then he's just caught up in this crazy situation, trying to wear a comfortable sweater.
I found that really
he just fucking ends up involved in Chinese black magic and a bunch of bullshit, all over
I found that really refreshing because he
has
all of the trappings of so just to back up a bit, so he has all the trappings of the classical Western hero, specifically of the John Wayne variety, because he's basically doing a John Wayne impression, number one. Number two, John Carpenter, when he was starting out, that was his big dream, was to make Westerns. And, at that time, that would have been late 70s or whatever, that just wasn't a happening thing anymore. But what he was able to do with his films from thinking The Thing, this one, They Live, a lot of his films. Yeah, a lot of his films, they have a very Western archetype in their storytelling, and especially here where you do have someone who, had John Wayne been of that same age and everything, totally would have played that role, except that here you also have the fact that person, so he's in that same role, and yet he's just kind of he's got way in over his head, and doesn't really have any business being there, but it's he's like, well, okay, I guess I'm here now,
Yeah,
and so
it's a
it's
lot of
like
fun. It's a lot of stranger in a strange land, like swept away on a crazy journey type crap.
it is.
But you were saying, Forrest.
Oh, I'm not sure. Oh, I'm not sure. I don't know if I had anything else. Well, I will say also, excellent. Oh, also David Hong as Lopan, another highlight of the movie. I mean, with Dave, he's always. I mean, he's always. David Hong's always great to walk. Great to. He's one of those characters.
James.
And also, and also Victor Wong as Egg Shen, another great character actor who gets to shine here.
Between this and Walter, I mean, he was burned into all of our childhoods, I think.
Well, I kind of missed him because I didn't see these growing. We'll get to that in a minute, but I do want to mention this is our second visit with Victor Wong on this channel because he apparently also starred in Tremors.
Yep.
Which was
Which going over to Dustin.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the show. And what was your first impression of Big Trouble in Little China? Oh, I think we just lost him.
Did we? Oh.
Well, so next person.
Okay, let's go over to you, Brandon, for a moment. What were your first impressions?
So this one is one I watched from a very young age. And as a kid, this thing went beyond your average martial arts flick because it had really cool effects. It had a guy that blew himself up. It had like a lightning guy. It was just like really awesome martial arts. Actually, it's the perfect movie for the title Martial Arts Mayhem because it was. And to me, it was just such a neat thing. Even today, this type of thing fascinates me. Them going down to the different levels, the hidden doors, the secret rooms. All of this is great. The set pieces. And today, it's even more impressive to me because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, like, way back then, even today, by today's standards, I would even say that this movie can hold up very well, and not
it ages like a fine wine. It really does.
I mean, it was touched on by Dane and Forrest before, but reality is the white guy is not the main character in this. He's the comic relief, and I think that was actually intentional to put him in the kind of comic relief that the minority character would be in under normal circumstances. Because, as he said, the guy, the Asian guy that the story is about, he's the star.
Yeah. Well, and
people were quick to claim woke and take a poke at this movie for a minute there, but I think when they really started looking at it, it's like, yeah, there's might be some language that's problematic in it nowadays.
Oh yeah,
but
I mean,
in reality,
it's
definitely got
for
like
the-
more
for the
going
time
for it in the
period.
other direction.
Well, but also, he's somebody that he's not incapable as a character because obviously he helps to save the day and everything, but he's far from the kind of classical mold of the 80s protagonist. He looks like that, and you can see that he's initially set up in that role, but also at the same time, like, he is way in over his head and hasn't really the slightest clue of what's going on or why, and it's just so far out of his wheelhouse, that he's just doing the best that he can, but also it's not for lack of trying either, so it's like it hits that balance just right, to where he's not necessarily he is a comic relief character. He's not necessarily a joke character per se. But he's someone that, like, you could believe why he's sort of like, what the fuck am I doing here? Throughout the whole movie.
Right.
He's I shouldn't say necessarily joke character, but he is more of the sidekick character.
Yeah.
That's the
All right.
case.
While in the guise of being the lead, which is what's
Yeah.
so clever
Right.
about it.
Like I said,
So
Yeah.
it's more. It makes it so different from other films at the time, who would have easily thrown
Right.
just right there. It would have all been about the main lead, and the other guys would be there to be as like window dressing.
His
And
his wingman, his
yeah,
wingman. It
so
would
all right.
another way
So
narrative.
so where are we on the first impressions rotation?
so we got
Because we got into character discussion there.
Can anybody hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, we can.
oh, there you are.
Oh, okay. So I've been trying to talk this whole time.
Like,
Well,
I
we hear you
couldn't
now.
hear a thing.
I heard him a couple of times, but the boys were talking.
Okay.
But go ahead with your first impressions, Dustin.
Well, I first saw this. I'm not exactly sure when. I think I saw it when I was getting into horror in 2012, and it was like, oh, John Carpenter movie. This is probably horror, right? And I didn't know what to make of it at the time. And then I saw it again recently, and it's like, oh, this is just like a big bombastic action movie. Okay. And it's kind of got its own genre, like, because there's a lot going on that you don't have in your standard action movie. Like, it's got magic and monsters and all kinds of craziness. But I enjoy this movie. So this is a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I myself, I know I myself, I know I saw this like years ago, and I actually haven't seen it that many times in its full exteriority. So to me, watching some of these parts, we're watching some of them for like the first time, and
Yes.
I enjoy this movie to an extent. To an extent, I mean, once you realize that every single time, well, not every single time. I wouldn't say that, but almost every single time that Kurt Russell gets a chance to pull out a knife or pull out a gun. He either shoots the ceiling and
Knocks himself
hit by
out.
some
Hurts
rock,
himself out.
or he ends up trying to be part of the fight and gets a knife stuck in some dude's chest. So,
He's a very klutzy hero.
yeah, to an extent where you could almost like film the film without him. So,
He's a mascot character.
yeah, his muscles basically. That's what I feel. Especially, but the thing about him is that a lot of his lines are very quotable, and I love that aspect about this, and the fact that he's trying to do a John Wayne impression every time. Hey, little lady,
That whole part where at the beginning where he's like talking on his radio and eating a sandwich is like still one of my favorite parts of the movie because it's just him getting into character, just enjoying it.
And he speaks about himself in the third person, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
That just tells you how he sees himself relative to what his actual ability is at first, and then what he has to ultimately do to be worthy of his kind of vaunted sense of himself.
I think he knows that he's got it in him to kick ass, but I'm sure we'll get to all that when we really break down the character.
So it's kind of like the dude is a shock jock radio host.
Yeah, exactly. It's like his persona. Some of his behavior when he's actually dealing with shit is pretty telling to the fact that he's like clearly clueless.
Right.
What was your first impression?
Oh, well, dude, this is one that I think I saw it right around the same age as Forrest, actually. We seem to have, we're definitely from similar generation. You're only a year older than I am, so a lot of these movies that are, super influential on our generation of people, all of ours, really. Most of you guys aren't that much older than us, so same kind of movies. But me and him seem to have seen them at a similar age, I think I was like 12 when I saw this movie for the first time, and it immediately kicked ass.
Yep.
And then later, like the copy that I watched to do this, dude, when I was like a senior in high school, somebody told me they had a Walmart for $5, and I went and woke my neighbor at the time, who I was cool with, up in like the middle of the night. I was all drunk and shit. I went over there and like woke him up and convinced him to take me to Walmart and let me buy Big Trouble in Little China and get him like Jack in the Box tacos and shit.
I think I got my copy
so,
for Media Play.
Yeah, when you find out fucking Big Trouble in Little China is $5, you go buy it immediately. It's
Oh,
like-
yeah.
I just remember what
Even
Jeff-
if you have to wake the neighbor up.
Walmart for $5.
yeah, I still got it.
Hey,
This movie is
it's an
basically what
awesome-
happens when an NES game is made into a live action movie, when you really think about it. I mean, even down to Jack Burton's clumsiness, that's us playing the game as that fucking dude with the wife beater on or
Well,
whatever, you know.
It's kind of like if you took John Wayne and put him in The Last Crusade, and
It's a fucking Nintendo game, dude. Like, the whole plot of it is a Nintendo game. Like, random truck driver interacts with kung fu magicians
Yeah.
and shit. And
Yeah.
then, you know, you got the whole him being
Did they
a
have
clumsy
a,
hero. You got the soundtrack, which sounds like a Nintendo game if you were to put
Did
it
they
into,
have
like...
an NES game for this? Because
There
they
was
had
one
an
for
NES game for
64.
everything.
What's that, Forrest?
I'm seeing here that there was a computer game released for Commodore 64, ZX Spectrum, and Amstrad CPC.
Oh.
Okay.
There very well may be. As far as like licensed Nintendo game, no, we never got that. But Hackensack Dave from the fucking great Pacific Northwest has one available that he basically made on his website.
Although
So if you have
it's-
like an EverDrive, you could play that on your NES, or you could put it on your NES Classic or whatever. So you guys have that kind of shit.
I still have I still have an NES, so
Yeah, if I remember right, his Big Trouble in Little China game is like free on his website. So just packensackdave.com. You can play the NES game.
Good times.
You've got
But
me.
it's that
you
much
got,
of a thing, dude. Like, it is just an NES game, so somebody made it into a game finally because it
Right.
needed it, you know?
You
Like, when you think
totally
of
got you've totally got me thinking about scenes from this movie, and then you cut to James Rolfe at the NES controller going, "What the fuck? What were they thinking?" You know, with like all the random
The whole
enemies and stuff.
hell of the under upside down spinners is the Mario water level of the game when you
Right.
or of the movie. Excuse me,
Yep.
when you really think about it, like it plays like a game when you watch the movie.
all the levels.
Yeah,
Or even just randomly driving your big rig into a narrow alley, and then you have to stop while all these people are having a war in front of you. And that feels like a something out of an 80s video game.
It does. Or like I'm thinking of like something like as of like Bad Dudes or something like
Right.
that.
Yep.
well, and when you think, well, I think that might be one of the games he used as a resource to do the Packensack Dave to do the Big Trouble game, but like even his outfit when you think about it, or like the scene where he upgrades to the submachine gun, like there's so many things
Oh, yeah.
about it. Because every time that he ends up with more clothes, he ends up stripped back down to like that basic outfit of the jeans and the boots and the tank top, you know,
Well,
like he's an NES sprite or
Before we
something.
get
And that's-
into main plot points, let's finish the first impressions.
Right.
Well, that's
So-
totally 80s action movie logic. The less clothing you have and the bigger gun that you have, the more invincible you are.
Exactly.
Dave, why don't you tell us your first impressions of this film?
So
For
I
me?
would have.
Oh, dang. Who'd you say?
Yeah, who did you say?
Okay, Dave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would have seen this back maybe a few years ago, and it was at the behest of a cousin of mine who was like, "You should see this. You'd like it." And you know, I honestly was confusing it at the time with Showdown in Little Tokyo. You know, because it was you know similar number of syllables. You know, little city. You know, this and that. You know, so that was sort of where my brain was at, and I was confusing it. And I haven't even seen Showdown in Little Tokyo, but there's the line that I know is, "Just in case we get killed, I want you to know, you have the biggest dick I ever seen on a man. Thanks." Yeah, like that's the line that I know. And so I was confusing it. I was like, when do we get to that scene? How the fuck do we get to that scene? And we didn't. And he was like, "What are you talking about?" And so I go into it expecting to see that, and I don't at all. But nor do I know what to expect from the movie anyway. I have no damn idea what I'm gonna get, and so not knowing it at all, going into it totally blind, I was very impressed with the originality of the plot. And then as the plot got going and more stuff began to happen, it dawned on me. I was like, this is Mortal Kombat before Mortal Kombat. And I do believe I'm right on that because a lot of what would later go on to become Mortal Kombat did come from this movie.
Yes.
Mhm.
Oh,
So,
I'm sure some of it, yeah.
Well,
General plot is like
I mean, Raiden
night
is
and day
in there,
different.
too.
Yeah.
Raiden is clearly modeled on the Three Storms, and supposedly Shang Tsung is a direct ripoff.
Shang Tsung,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
he might be, but you know where these dudes fucking come from is 100% Lone Wolf and Cub, Baby Cart at the River Styx, also spliced into Shogun Assassin. If you guys watch that, which you will eventually, Jake, seeing as how you just got the set, you'll see that these guys are 100% down to the somersault flips, everything else, those dudes from that movie, which happened back in like 1976 or something like that.
Right.
So, definitely not an original concept, but that speaks to Big Trouble's whole thing of not spoofing Asian culture,
Right.
like triggered people want to say, but just spoofing Asian entertainment. You
Well,
know what I mean?
Or
in a sense-
paying homage to.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it was bringing.
Exactly.
I feel like given that this was the golden age of summer blockbusters, it was taking kung fu, taking kung fu flicks, and applying that blockbuster sensibility,
Mhm.
Yes.
that summer blockbuster sensibility to it.
100%.
Well, and I think this was my choice for martial arts mayhem because, and I kind of wondered about it because, and this again it ties into my impressions, which is that what put it over the edge for me was the fact that it did. I could see so many ties to Mortal Kombat in terms of the imagery, the feel of it, all that kind of stuff. Now, it's not a tournament fight or anything, which we've already covered that in Bloodsport and things like that. And obviously Enter the Dragon being the prototypical example of that. So it doesn't cover it off in that form, but it does in the sense of some of the supernatural aspects and the just visual design and that kind of stuff. And also like, just there are too many similarities to not make the comparison, and thus that was what kind of put it over the top for me because I'm like, well, this is like otherwise it's like fantasy, comedy, action, martial arts kind of hodgepodge, which it definitely is. That's what I love about it. But I was sort of like, well, is this martial arts enough to count? But then the Mortal Kombat connection kind of helps too. So that sounds like a band. That sounds like a band, doesn't it? The Mortal
Yeah.
Kombat
Well, and the
connection.
fact that that would be an awesome band name, but the fact that it goes forward too from like Lone Wolf and Cub to Big Trouble in Little China to Mortal Kombat is pretty neat. So
there's a clear lineage there. So, but that was why I was like, yeah, that's close enough.
I knew the Raiden thing was going to come up though because I have so many friends and they're like, "Oh, it's Raiden. They're Raidens." And it's like,
Yes.
no, they're those dudes from Shogun Assassin or Lone Wolf and Cub 2, whichever you prefer.
Right.
Going over to Jake, what were your first impressions of this film?
Well, this is actually the fourth one that we've talked about in the last 2 days that I've seen for the first time this week. So,
You expanded your horizons.
yes, quite a bit. And actually, it's interesting that this came out the same year as one of those two Jason movies. So we've actually doubled our listing of 1986 films that we've covered on these various channels. As far as I can tell.
For noticing that. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
But this is one that I have known about for many years. It is a film whose name and to a degree reputation precedes it. In fact, one of the films that we had up in the mix for this month that I was mildly disappointed that we didn't cover is probably the film that, or the series that gave Brandon the phrase, I'm sure, martial arts mayhem. I think it was the Animazing had put up a Ranmo and Half, the first movie, and that the American title was Big Trouble in Nickenrun, China. And I know they were directly playing off of this title with that one. And it's not the only one. I know other movies have this title has been referenced many, 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 many times. So I knew it by name and reputation. I knew Kurt Russell was involved. I had not quite realized it was a John Carpenter film. And I really didn't know fully what to expect getting into it. It's not quite what I really thought it was going to be. My first impression is that it was a very entertaining movie. Kind of like Sword of the Stranger. Watch our other review this week. I was put off by one of the main characters. I'll be honest, I did not entirely care for Russell's character. Jack was, I don't know, maybe he was too John Wayne-ish. I don't know. I've never been a big John Wayne fan. He just came across as an arrogant American. But he became more like
with the video game.
I was going to say he became more. Well, if you look at it that way, he did become more likable as the movie went on. Like I said, that sort of bumbling, kind of the fact that they kept undercutting him. You know, when he fired the gun and knocked himself out, that was pretty hilarious.
I was gonna say, like, I think that's kind of the whole point of setting himself up that way, is that you're making it such that this is somebody who really sees himself in that classical American Western hero mold, and he does these things don't just get handed to him by virtue of him seeing himself that way. He has to actually it's quite
clumsy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And by the end of it, he's still not even fully aware of exactly what the fuck just happened,
Right.
Which
well, let's look at the plot at the very beginning before we go anywhere more forward. So, we obviously have Kurt Russell here as a trucker who tends to make a run to a specific Japanese or Chinese restaurant. And his best friend just so happens to be Wang, and he ends up having to go meet his fiance at an airport. She gets kidnapped by a local gang of thugs who end up going and leading them to Chinatown, which is where we begin again the madhouse, a little bit of craziness. Because what do we think about these very beginning scenes here?
I mean, it's introduction.
Oh, I don't know, man. Like his whole truck stop or truck cab monologue thing at the beginning is pretty amazing in introducing you to the character. There's something about that I just love. Like, we used to quote a lot of that Pork Chop Express bullshit back in the day because we just thought it was the height of comedy. He's awesome, and you get introduced to his love of Chinatown. I don't even think it's that he's going there. He's gambling with the dudes. He's repping the Chinese artwork on his tank top. He's about that life. So get the idea that, in the fact that his best friend is obviously some type of tycoon down there. You get the idea that he hangs out there quite a bit. Obviously not enough to know about that Chinese black magic though, but I love that whole opening of the movie with the bottle and everything. It's classic.
I think Kurt Russell is supposed to represent the everyman. He's supposed to be our like the way of them putting our eyes into this kind of secret society, these black magic, all this stuff. He's technically our in, so to speak.
Mhm.
Oh, right. And his
and
clumsiness kind of speaks to every dude that's like, oh, if I was in this movie, I'd do this. And it's like, well, that's probably actually what
He's
you'd do.
supposed to
Some
be
Jack Burton shit.
the average Joe that knows
And,
nothing
and
about anything except
and
for
that does work with the video game connection. The idea that, yeah.
Well,
And-
it's
and
it's
come
the
on.
average Joe who doesn't think he's the average Joe. He thinks that he's several steps above the average Joe because he has this very specific, vaunted sense of himself, and then you realize very quickly that all of that hubris and all of that, uh, bravado and everything that falls apart pretty quickly when you're confronted with something that, quite frankly, you have no business being in because it's so far out of your realm of experience.
Yeah, Kung Fu Wizards will set you right real quick.
Absolutely.
and once they get to the port and
Hold on. I think Brandon was trying to say something.
go
there.
ahead.
Come on, buddy.
I mean, who actually didn't watch this movie the first time and say, "Oh, he's gonna split that bottle right in half," just to show his like prowess in martial arts, and then when he doesn't at all, it's just hilarious. Like, oh, I didn't know that would happen.
Well, he switches the bottle. He had the gimmicked bottle. See,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
subtle, but Burton knows what he's doing. He's been down there in those Asian gambling dens a few times, you know.
Oh, yeah,
So
he
he's
was
like,
scamming.
yeah, okay, we'll do it, but we'll do it with this bottle, not your bottle, you know.
and ultimately
If you knew some good sleight of hand, like magic trickery, saw in a bottle somehow, well, no one's looking while you're playing whatever the hell they were playing, Mahjong. I guess. I mean, it seems unrealistic, though, that they'd be able to gimmick a bottle while they were just sitting there. So, just my 2 cents.
And
Still a cool scene.
Yeah.
Now, you have to admit his excuse, while it may be an excuse, it's believable. He claims that I can't remember what he said, like he was his mind and body were going in different directions or something. But it was like, but he was thinking about his fiance, and that was his excuse. But yeah, I'll admit, if I had a fiance like that waiting in the wings, I'd be distracted.
Yeah.
Gracie Law was like 10 times hotter than the fucking.
Well,
Green Eye.
yeah, I mean, both of them were pretty cute. You know, and it is kind of funny. There's this whole big thing about green eyes. Wow, there's 2 green-eyed beauties, and neither one of them actually had green eyes. They both
Yep.
had to use contacts.
Well, somebody made the comparison to the dude a few minutes ago. I was just thinking, in another reality, it might have been like, this is a very complicated case, Maud. A lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what
Yeah.
have yous, and
Imagine
indeed
that
that
be
is the
written
case
by those
here.
dudes.
Well, I just love the way his continuation of that. Fortunately, I'm adhering to a very strict drug regimen to keep my mind limber.
Yeah, that's right. We gotta talk about the Big Lebowski sometime.
Yes, one day.
Yeah.
I got it. Double feature: Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and the Big Lebowski.
Oh dear.
Well, dude, check it. Like the reason there's little cues in the way he reacts to things
Right.
that remind me of it a little bit too. Like
Right.
when that dude first pulls the switchblade on him at the airport, and then that other dude has the baton, and he's like, "What?" When that guy pulls the switchblade, then the dude flips out the baton, and he's like, "Where'd you get that?" Like that's his reaction to it. It's
Right.
fucking hilarious. You know, it's like he's too laid back in his heroism at that point to notice that, yeah, these guys are probably bringing some ruckus.
All right.
all right. So he ends up going with his friend Wang to the airport to meet up with his fiance, and lo and behold, they kind of get waylaid by this gang of thugs that ends up kidnapping Wang's fiance and takes them into Chinatown. Now, once
The
they
Lord's
get to,
Death. That's a
once
sweet
they
name
get
for
to
a character,
Chinatown, they end up going down this thin ass alley and
Mhm.
end up realizing that they're in between. It basically got them caught in between a street war.
Mhm.
So, what do we think about this whole trip down to this alley, and what do we think about this little war faction thing going on?
Oh, they're crazy.
Or the gang war funeral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's maybe the most normal thing in this movie. Like, or well, you know I mean, right? Like, it's the most. It's like
Yeah,
actually
no, fully.
kind of real. It's kind of grounded in reality before things
It
get too
still
crazy.
kicks
Mhm.
literal leagues of
Well,
fucking ass.
Until
Okay.
until the storms arrive, and then you're like, what is this?
Hang on,
It
my
gets a little
doorbell
weird
just
there.
rang. I'll be right back. You could talk.
And honestly, it's unfortunate that most people weren't familiar with Shogun Assassin or Lone Wolf and Cub at this point, because it would have made the debut of those guys so much funnier. Like I think for people that aren't familiar with that, they're like, what the hell's with these dudes? That guy's like, whoa, and he holds up things and they start spinning and shit. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's supposed to be parodying that.
Oh yeah.
well, yeah.
Mm.
So
But it's
once they
fun
get
as
to
all
a certain,
get out.
But it's insane, dude. It's like, like this scene alone warrants inclusion in this month based on the theme, because there's probably more brutal martial arts practiced in this one
Yeah.
sequence than in every other fucking movie we're gonna watch this month almost.
Well,
you know?
on your
There's
note,
limbs getting broken every other clip,
well, on your note as well about things where the film seems to be kind of also a little tongue in cheek and poking fun at conventions. You got the entrance of the alley in the first place, where they're just chugging along in the truck, like just zoom.
Oh,
And
I
when
love it.
oh, we need to turn now. And it's like, when? Now. And they literally just zoom on a dime. It's like this big ass
Yeah.
rig just is like,
Almost
and it's
drifted in.
perfectly positioned. And that was a video game move there. That was like,
Yeah.
it's like,
And the thing
okay.
is, the awesome part about this being as old as the movie is that some dude fucking did that.
Yeah,
To a point.
yeah.
Like he whipped that rig right in there.
Mhm.
Maybe not on the first try, but
It takes
Right.
a couple tries sometimes when you're doing that sort of thing.
Right.
But
Still.
who actually would have thought about about getting the rig right in there?
I almost didn't think it was going to get in there. It was a tight spot.
Yeah.
And then once they came out the other end, they realized that there's this funeral procession coming towards them, and they're like, and Kurt Russell's character is like, holy fuck, what is this shit? What am I getting? What am I getting myself into?
And that's one of the
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's one of the things that watching it early does for you, that it's not that doesn't
Hey,
do as
guys,
much for you
guys,
otherwise.
hang on, guys. Sorry, I need to go. I had a neighbor kind of is having an emergency situation, so I'll see you guys later. Sorry, bye.
All right.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
All right.
Well, in any case, I was just saying that one of the advantages of seeing this early on in life is that at first I didn't understand, and I knew exactly where they were talking about, with this whole thing. Whereas before, as of now, I see that thing and I know automatically it's a funeral procession. So it kind of works out to the advantage in this case.
Oh shit, I think I was like I said, like 12, 13. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I didn't give a fuck. I was like,
Yeah.
what?
Well,
There's Chinese dudes about to fight. Yeah.
well, and these
Um,
guys aren't even ready for the fight. The other guys who come in behind the other way, they've got what is it? They've got machine guns looking like Rambo and
Oh, it's crazy, dude.
knives
There's a guy with 6 shooters and like a bandolier of rounds and shit.
They
It's
got meat
nuts.
cleavers.
My favorite part is the extendable like things that I don't know what they call those like pallbearer rods that they were using to hold up the casket. Like after they're done, they're like all extending them like batons and shit. I thought for some reason this time that made me laugh a lot. Yeah.
Well, and then it gets all crazy where the three rice hat Raidens come into play, and I think one of them even had like some twirling like knives in their hands or something.
Yeah.
Like that, wasn't it?
Yeah.
They had something to differentiate.
Well, the dude has
them
the
from-
extendable claws, and that's like the one dude's weapon in the fucking Lone Wolf and Cub. Sorry, Brandon.
No, that's all I would say is that each one had something to differentiate them.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then ultimately, they end up going into another part of the alley, and that's when they recognized the red car that had almost run them down in the fucking under garage of the airport area. Which I think we kind of glanced over that part too. I mean, they were standing just watching the red car like speed towards them.
The movie really does go from like 0 to 60 though, in a minute there at the airport, and then it keeps up from there. You know, like the whole carport thing is amazing. I love when he like. Just Kurt Russell's performance in this is kind of one of those things. I think the more you watch the movie, the more you notice like how awesome it is. You know, like when he stops for a second, he looks like he genuinely doesn't know what to say, and he's just like, "Call the cops." I don't know why I laughed so fucking hard at that part. Almost every one of his lines becomes fucking laugh worthy when you watch the movie more and more. You know?
Well, and that's about where we can pick up and talk about the female characters in this film a little bit more.
Oh, Gracie Law, love of my life. That's I ain't even gonna make any bones about it. Hit me up if she's still alive.
She's a Canadian treasure.
There we go. We already have something in common.
Yeah, Gracie Law, isn't she like a reporter of some sort?
She's a lawyer.
Her friend is a reporter, though.
Yeah.
She's a civil rights lawyer that tries to help like Asian immigrants basically get into the country without being discriminated against. Yeah. That's
how worthy cause.
Well, yeah, and they sort of gloss over that part because there's this this Asian female that was at her place, and Kurt Russell's character was like, "Well, what the fuck is that?" She's like, "Oh, that's just me trying to help humanity out," or something like that.
No, that was real. I don't think that girl was like a friend she uses for these schemes or anything. I'm pretty sure it was just an Asian girl she helped get in.
Wasn't that the one that she picked up at the airport? Like,
yeah, that's why she was.
Yeah.
Because how the hell? Why would she know that Wang has like some green-eyed chick coming? It doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
An important thing we glossed over at the initial scene is that dude's sweet white shades with like the slits. I want a pair of those.
And ultimately,
they
end up running into the black magic version of Lopez, which evidently he's got these like glowing white eyes that you can't exactly stare into. I mean, it's not just his eyes; it's his mouth.
Light coming out of his mouth.
Right.
Russell, make sure to mention later. That is weird. You know, most
Kinda
dudes
really
don't have light coming out.
freaky type.
Well, and he's floored that he like right through him, and then he ended up like walking right towards him again. He's like, "What the?"
I think honestly, my reaction would probably be pretty similar though. Like I just watched a huge Braveheart battle between some weird Chinese street gangs that I knew existed out behind the place where I play mahjong or some shit.
I was
Fucking
thinking gangs of New York there for a moment.
all of
Yeah.
a sudden, there's like wizards because everybody seemed fairly shocked. Honestly, even the gangs that were battling because they got a bunch of like what are those? I don't forget what those fucking curved knives are. They threw those right into those dudes' chests, and they didn't seem to see that coming. So we weren't the only people shocked by the appearance of the kung fu wizards. You know?
And ultimately, they end up back at the Chinese restaurant, and that's when you get the little moment between it looks like Wang's grandfather or something like that, and
it's his uncle, I think.
Uncle?
And he's just sort of there to explain crap that we already are kind of getting explained to us.
Which
It's
is
unfortunate.
which is the whole mythos of this 1,000-year-old or whatever curse where supposedly some ancient Chinese magician or warlock had placed a curse on Lo Mein when he was like evidently.
Oh, he's a side dish.
And,
That's the curse.
basically, what was the curse? The curse was the fact that he had to find a green-eyed bride, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, that
Yeah,
was
it's
the
your
idea.
classic sacrifice a virgin curse thing where it's like you got to find this weird girl with this very specific criteria to sacrifice to this demon that you owe allegiance to. That was basically the. And he outright says.
And ultimately, they end up at this cat house place, which is exactly where apparently the gang is holding the body of the fiance, and she is.
You make it sound like a killer.
Well, this is where the Raiden characters end up like coming down in this storm and like break through, basically take off the roof of the room, and take her up and out and over to Lopan, and that's what. And from here, did anyone else want to take it from here?
I know when they had there's two rescue points. I mean, the first rescue point happens, I think, right after that, where they're introduced to the old body of. And I was going to say a little bit earlier to kind of to add to what Mo was saying about the curse. You kind of learn that there's a couple basic things about it. One is that because of the deals he's made and because of the affronts he's made, he's kind of had to live this half life as a half, not even a true living being. It's just like a dream. So he's kind of having to live out his life in kind of this very weak shell for the most part. The only way to do it is to appease the gods, and the halfway appease it, he's got to find the bride with green eyes. But to appease the other one, he has to kill them so that he can become mortal, but also then become all powerful at the end of it. So it was just, I thought it was great that you actually got to drive that. You got to drive the initial plot with the old man, and he's a nice old man in some ways. I mean, he seems like somebody you could get along with if you didn't want to,
Yeah, you kind of feel
if he
bad
wasn't
for
going to
him.
kill like the girl you're at, But I think it was just like having a good
I
conversation.
love that part. I don't know why.
Well, yeah, and I love the fact that a lot of the places that they end up finding themselves in it's kind of like a maze of labyrinths and underground rooms and caves and shit like that, and you got elevators that go up and down. And statues and Buddha statue hallways and
Yeah, especially random creatures. Like you just have a random fucking like sewer werewolf thing jig that takes a girl.
I
Who runs
almost
down a
consider
fucking
this-
hallway full of Buddha statues. It's really cool.
I almost consider this kind of part kaiju in a way because of the people in the monster suits, So
Not big enough.
Yeah, not big enough. Because kaiju means giant monster. Yeah.
well, there was a giant monster in the sewer that kind of just went and like.
Well, he was man-sized. He was just really, really grody looking.
Right.
Like your
And of
uncle's
course-
ball bag peeking out the bottom of a really low-cut pair of denim shorts. It's just not something you want to see.
Lovely thought. And then
Which
it's
What
worth
means with
noting-
all of you.
Which
worth
reminds
noting-
me, ultimately they end up hooking up with the tour guide bus guy, which
Yes. Big Shen.
apparently he's like some kind of like warlock.
Badass Chinese wizard. Yeah.
and I'll do an addendum to what I said earlier. I said that not necessarily would Victor Wong have been from my childhood, but he did star as the grandfather in the Three Ninjas series. So I guess
Yeah.
Three Ninjas was one that I had fond memories of.
Jacob.
But
I love it. I bought all the video games. I
also
literally
have
have
to
them on
men-
the shelf right here next to us.
I also have to
And yet,
mention that I also have to mention that David Lopan is played by James Hong, a veteran character actor who's done tons of stuff over the years.
Oh yeah,
And he had-
was
he
in some
had a
shit
recurring
just
role.
recently that I was watching where it was like, oh shit, that's fucking Lopan. You know,
Well, he
it's like a
he of
principal
course
of the school or something.
is a recurring vocal role in the Kung Fu Panda movies. He's in the last Sharknado, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing that I'll remember him from that probably would be the childhood connection, not childhood so much as young adulthood. But he did have a recurring role in Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. So that's one that I'll always associate him with. That's a classic series there. He did have a vocal role in Mulan. He did have some random TV appearances: Home Improvement, The X-Files, Lois and Clark, Doogie Howser, Guyver. Dude was in everything. Seinfeld. All kinds of stuff. But anyway, I know Seinfeld got Brandon excited. I know that.
Well, and ultimately, once he hooked up with our warlock character, that's when things started to pick up a little more. I mean, we've got the Kurt Russell character and his friend Wang getting apparently they were taken and put up in like an upper room, and they escaped, and we realized that one of the Raiden characters that is now in a suit he evidently can blow himself up to a certain extent, which evidently is like part of his powers, I guess. And
part of that is how neither of those dudes try to catch Kurt Russell as he rolls backwards in that wheelchair. They both look at him too. Great.
love that
Okay, I'm not trying to do anything about that.
And ultimately we have them later go through some of the underground stuff, and they end up coming back for what was it? Gracie's character, and she because she's green-eyed, she ultimately gets herself as like part of the ceremony that he's got to do to become flesh. So, what do you guys think about this whole? Okay, great. Gracie got stuck back there. She became part of this ceremony. We got this demon demon Grody looking like character that evidently like took her down to do something.
Okay.
Whoa, what's going on?
Who,
The hell
who's
is
got
that?
some outside interference going on now? Mute your mic.
Anywho, I don't know. I'll get mine out of the way real quick, man, so you guys can do your thing.
Calling in the big rig.
It's hard for me anymore to separate this from that whole idea of it being a video game, you know?
Yeah.
So you have like your first level in the airport where you stumble and lose your grip and like have to learn the controls, you know? And then after that, you have like your cutscene where you get the story, which is basically like the whole alley scene and them at their house or above the restaurant or whatever. And
Well,
then you have like your first real mission of the game, which is infiltrating the place to try to get the lady, you know. In a video game, you had to fight that dude briefly, but you would have basically got beat and he would have taken off. In the whorehouse, you know what I mean? Where he goes like there and he pretends to be like a nerd looking for a lady or whatever. We kind of glossed over that part, but that's a solid part of the movie for sure.
That was a solid part. I mean, he looked different to me in glasses.
He did. I wouldn't have thought it
Yeah.
was the same
He
dude, like
almost
at a
looked-
glance.
He almost looked like he was back in his Disney days, just a little bit. Almost clean.
I like how he totally doesn't fit in those clothes either. Like he's just like muscles bulging out.
Yeah.
Like it couldn't be a worse disguise. Almost if you could, you know.
Oh yeah, I can definitely see that. And then ultimately, there is a magic potion that our lovely bus tour character ends up having them all drink before
Right.
they go in on the
Oh, we really,
festivities. I like those chalices that they were drinking from. I don't know about you guys.
Mhm.
well, we really kind of threw our way through to the end. The one thing in between when they were trying to, because this is on the second try, because they had to do the chalice drink in order to hurt the guy, or hurt them actually, because they weren't supernatural, but they had this kind of back entrance into the underworld for the second time. The
Yeah.
first time it was really cool because they took the elevator and the elevator flooded and all that. But
And they
who
had to
thought
crawl
when they
out
were
through that water level. Yeah.
when they were going through those underground, like whatever it was, with all of the stuff, and he threw the fireworks at the tentacle monster that came out of the wall. I don't know why, but it reminds me of Crawl when they're first starting
Yes,
their journey
dude.
under the tower to try and rescue him, and then they get whittled down.
That's so I was just about to say, like, it goes real Kroll on you real quick once he gets the machine gun and like the movie really starts taking off. That's pretty much exactly what it does, is turns into Kroll, except with different setting, different
So I'm not the
characters.
only
Awesome.
one.
No, not at all.
No.
Oh man.
And then after they get into the ceremonial room where the two brides are evidently going through the needle of love concept of the the whole ceremony bit there, we get some really cool like sword in the air moments with our Wing character that kind of is cool because like the character said before that they would be have that dreamlike quality to be on their level of spirituality in the dream walking world, you know, to have the same powers exactly like them, and that's where we get Wang doing similar things that one sword character was doing. What do you think about that whole fight scene there, Forrest?
That was I thought that was one of those things that's always stuck out to me is ever since I first saw it, especially like when Wang Chi and Lopan's his men are engaging in a sword fight midair. I always thought that part was awesome. Looked awesome. Like even in this age where of like $100 million, destroy everything blockbusters, it's still one of those action sequences that sticks out to me.
Right.
Just because it's just something you wish you could do.
Well,
Yeah.
and I also like the black magic battle moments between Shen and David Lopan there, where they kind of went into this magical fight where you could see like these two samurai warriors almost like doing like that old game where you could actually like punch the other wrestler out, kind of a thing, and you could actually see David. James Hong's character
playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots. Like,
Yeah,
that's a great moment.
And you can actually see that James Hong there is acting like he's actually got a video game controller in his hand, just those 80s kind of moments there.
I like how Kurt Russell starts out the big battle by shooting the ceiling and then knocking himself out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Well, and then he's trying to get his knife out of his fucking boot, and the knife just kind of sticks there. That samurai dude just
Well,
falls.
I think that's a good commentary on the fact that boot knives. Well, maybe if you're gonna have like a bunch of knives on you, you might as well have one in the boot. But I don't know if that's like should be your first resort. It became popular because of like movies, and I'm pretty sure like pulp novels and shit at the time. Boot knives. It's not the most fucking.
Yeah.
Why would you have one taped to your wrist or like velcroed to your wrist?
They
Like,
don't
that makes a
always shoot
lot
out the bottom
more
of their boot.
sense.
They normally shoot out the toe or something like that.
That's different, When I think of a boot knife, I think what a lot of people think of, which is like a knife that's down there in boot range, basically. They were sold heavily for a while, I guess.
Well, and that's about the time when Lopan's character decided, I think it's my time to leave. And he ends up going evidently up an elevator of his own. We ultimately get a small little magical bomb that pretty much makes that one ogreish like monster character come out of the one place. And I thought it was kind of cool how Eggshawn he dodged the lightning from the one Raiden character with a fan, and it basically just like electrocuted his ass. But ultimately we get a confrontation with all the two ladies and Wang and Kurt Russell's character up in a long hallway with Lopan, and he's got a hold of the Wang's fiance, and he basically has a moment where he shoots his knife at him, and he shoots it right back at him, and then he basically pings it right back at his forehead, and he's like, "Oh shit!" He falls backwards, and then I think the top point of the movie for me was the final little fight with the character that of the goon that basically blew himself up.
Yep, which I have which I have here as my background.
Oh yeah.
Which your
That
head in the middle
scared
of
me
has
as
made
a
the
child.
right side of that fairly problematic most of the night, but we'll talk about that another time. Crops do a lot.
Yeah, that scared the crap out of me as a child when I saw that. I'll admit.
Well, and the
Oh, it's wild, man.
we kind of skimmed over the other creature that I almost feel like it comes from like Dungeons and Dragons kind of
Like the
thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
beholder.
I feel like I mentioned it. The
Like-
dirty
like
fucking
I-
butt pirate down there in the whatever the hell you call that thing.
I mean, like the beholder
They have a
looking
name
thing, the one
for
that has
it.
all the eyes.
Yeah.
I was talking about that crusty like werewolf thing that carried that girl around for a bit.
Yeah. Well, there was the thing with the eyes, like right at that moment that you liked when the stones fell on him when that creature was stabbed, it had a reaction.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I like the animation and the expression on that character. I don't know why, but in any case, ultimately, Lopan dies. The one character blows up, and the other one he gets a statue fallen on his person, and then they ultimately escape the underground ground, and I guess they kind of have a moment where back at the Chinese restaurant after all that that is done. Did anyone want to touch on the last final scenes here?
It's a little anticlimactic because you expect him to end up with the girl, and it's just like, all right, bye.
Well, he's kind of like the Western
Hey,
hero.
friends of the road, bubs. You know what I mean? Like, if the movie had was going harder, he probably would have banged her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Friends of the road. Those guys are those truck drivers. They live a transient life.
I think he was channeling John Wayne, riding off into the sunset.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. They're gonna
Trying
move
to,
along.
anyway.
Yeah. Probably have a bunch of bastard kids in the future.
For sure. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like that ending, and maybe for the simple fact that I do like John Wayne as character. To me,
Well, and keeping in the tradition of it, basically being a Nintendo game, it is fairly anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Usually the case. It's like you defeated the shit. Get the fuck out of here, you loser. Like that's pretty much what they say to you at the end of Nintendo
And
games.
actually, the main character was a bit of a. I mean, the main villain was a bit of a load-bearing boss. So
there is one moment while I was watching it with my fiance just a little bit ago, where when the Raidens came down on that cat house, and you saw
Damn
the
you,
top of that
David.
apartment building with the green smoke or whatever. I was thinking, oh, wait a minute, there's the Ghostbusters apartment.
Well, actually, Egg Shen's office is actually the interior of the Ghostbusters headquarters. Same. It's the same firehouse.
yep.
Also, it's also
Okay,
used as the auto ship and the mask.
That's why I was getting kind of a Ghostbusters kind of a vibe.
Same filming location. It was also used in the mask as the auto shop that Stanley Ipkiss messes up.
I knew
Okay,
you'd seen it recently.
so let's get into special effects here. What do we think about the special effects of this film, Dustin?
Pretty great. Pretty great.
Oh,
Everything here works really well. The monsters are. So I know the effects people were kind of unsatisfied with their like ape man creature that Mo was referring to, but I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And it's maybe the weakest
Yeah.
effect, which is really saying something about the quality of the.
Yeah,
I think maybe the only
I hadn't
thing
thought of it
that,
that way.
yeah, I think maybe the only thing that I guess doesn't look all that great to me is when the one guy explodes. Actually, like because when he inflates, he looks a little phony to me. But otherwise, everything works pretty well. And that's kind of a unique complaint to me.
I don't know. I love the exploding guy. I mean,
It's
that's
very
just
cartoonish.
Like, that
Yeah,
always
it's
because that
classic.
one
I love the exploding
sticks
guy
in my
too. I just don't
mind
think it's the best effect.
more than anything else. The other thing I thought was interesting was the battle with the two old wizards. I swear there was another movie that they had it to where it was two like wizard type guys battling, and then they had like two figures of like two computer generated figures fighting in their stead. I just can't think of what the name of it is.
The other thing that I
But
thought
it
was
looked
kind of interesting in this film was during the ceremony when two of the goons were kind of showing off their skills, and they ended up giving their the weapons to the females, and then they put their both of their hands on both swords, and evidently they were magically lifted to the ceiling, and then they both supposedly, mind you, both took one hand off each sword and touched this like globe up at the top of the ceiling, which turned green or whatnot, which was supposedly to, give him the power of having his flesh back, So so that was an interesting moment. I think I would have thought that if those girls actually did that in real life, how would they not have cuts on their hands?
Oh, they would have, yes.
I mean,
At
I
least one or
certainly
two
wouldn't be
anyway.
able to touch that globe one-handed, being that highly suspended in the air. But anyways, I think the effects work really good. The lightning that comes from these Raiden characters is fucking spectacular, and I think it works for these characters in this film. So, let's talk about the music in the film. Did anyone?
That's fucking awesome, dude. I mean, if you just listen to it casually, it's kind of like a, again, video game soundtrack. But the more you listen to it, the more it slaps.
It's pretty solid.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what it is about it. It kind of reminds me a bit of Labyrinth almost without the David Bowie tracks.
It
I like it.
On the same time.
Now, if I'm
Yeah,
remembering
that's sort of like
correctly,
and I get that.
if I'm remembering correctly, John Carpenter did the music himself, and
He did.
that's
Yep.
Yeah.
With a group called the
Pretty
Coupe de
impressive.
Yep.
Yeah.
With Tommy Lee Wallace and Nick Castle.
Interesting.
Michael
The
Myers.
Nick Castle, like the dude that played fucking Michael Myers.
Yes, that Nick Castle.
That's pretty dope.
Well,
So
Is that-
Michael Myers basically did the music for this as well.
Well, Michael
Nice.
Myers, and he helped on the music and sang.
Oh, it's just fucking spectacular. In any case, let's go to favorite scenes for everyone. What about your favorite scenes, Forrest?
Oh boy, oh god, there's so many good scenes. For me, definitely the final battle in Lopez Lair. That was just a really well shot scene. and oh god, definitely, and also the right Lopan's goon blowing up. I love the very cartoonish effect of it. It's oh god, and I know there's at least one. I can at least fit. I can think of at least one more. Oh god, probably. Probably the first alley. Probably the first fight, the first battle in the alley when we first meet Lopan.
Okay. Okay. Heading over to you, Brandon. What was your favorite scene from this movie?
I kind of liked, and I put it in there, the very first trek down to the dungeons. I don't know. I kind of look at them as in stages, much like a video game, as Mo was talking about. And I like that whole thing with the water filling the elevator, the whole confrontation with Lopan the first time where he's sitting there in the wheelchair. So I look at that entire grouping as one of my favorite starting up points.
Okay. Going over to you, Mo. What about your favorite scenes?
Dude, I think if I had to pick a favorite scene from this movie, it's probably not like a scene that most people would pick, in that it's not one of the more fantastical ones, but it perfectly sets up exactly, I think, in retrospect, the movie you're getting into. The moment that you hear those lines, but that whole first scene with what's his name, Egg Shen, talking to the lawyer dude or the prosecutor guy or whatever, and he's like, "You leave Jack Barton alone,"
Mm-hmm.
And then he's telling that guy, like, you expect me to believe all this shit, like, he's like, magic and all this shit, and he's like, you mean Chinese black magic? And he shows him the fucking lightning bolt, like, right there. That is, like, honestly, like, some Marvel level foreshadowing when you think about it. Like, that's like the scene that would be at the end of a Marvel movie almost. And it's at the beginning of this motherfucker,
Right.
So that whole scene right there is like the scene in Big Trouble for me anymore. Is Egg Shen, like, he's like, that's nothing, and then it bleeds into the actual story.
Okay. What about you, Dustin? What are some of your favorites?
Well, it's kind of already been called, like the final battle, and how the movie like finally fully leans into its craziness. I think to try and distinguish myself here, I'm gonna just point to my two favorite parts of that scene. Like when Jack Burton's like, "Yeah," and he shoots into the air and he knocks his ass out, and basically misses the battle.
That's amazing.
And then that moment we already touched on, where they're kind of controlling like astral fighters for the sorcerer battle, like that was pretty great. And then of course, like the whole protracted like sword battling sequence against I can never keep their names straight. Was that Thunder that he was up against?
I think it was Thunder that he was up against. Pretty sure.
So that was a great sword battle.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on in that last scene that I enjoy.
Okay. What about you, Jake? What were some of your favorite scenes, if there were one?
Well, definitely, I did like when he fired the gun in the air and knocked himself out. That was just hilarious. and I just, in general, Egg Shen as a character just amused me. So a lot of his scenes I enjoyed just because he amused me a lot.
Okay. I'm going to touch on a moment like after they were while they were escaping. There was a moment where they all had to go underwater, and Gracie was kind of like, where's this person? Where's that person? Where's Jack? And then when Jack finally comes up for air, he basically kisses her. And then while they're crawling along in the sewer, he's like,
That was a good one.
well, stop moving your body up and down along my body. It's distracting me. I guess that little moment where they kind of distinguish that she is the
I
loving.
mean, I wouldn't recommend pulling that move in real life because it's pretty fucking weird. Yeah. But as like a video game movie character, Jack Burton is free to do as he wishes. You know?
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's just any action hero, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
In general, it's that way they can just grab the girl, kiss them, and that's the
Well,
awesome
she
thing.
exactly. And then, of course, he says, "Oh, I'm
They
sorry."
make it pretty funny though, because she's not
I'm
about
sorry.
it.
I was excited about having like my life back or something like that.
Yeah, it's like I'm just happy to be alive or whatever. Like, it was a funny moment. Yeah.
Don't worry, girl. I was just thinking about my truck.
Which is exactly what he said. He said.
I'm the same when I kiss you, Brandon.
Well, so you got to think about it that this guy is supposed to be the John Wayne type. You cowboys, they love their horses, and that's all they care about. They're their horses. So, and this is his horse, his truck. So he only has room in his heart for his horse, his truck.
Well, and my other scene is the wizard battle. So I guess I also get a kick out of the fact that he knocks himself out. So.
It's classic.
Well, it's not just that. There was a moment where there was this big old battle scene where Wayne kicks some ass during the door scene, and he had to go like behind and like grab his gun and his knife out of his boot or whatnot. And by the time he came around the corner, Wayne had already like filleted all the guys. So, but and he was like, "What? I had to get my shit, you know." But in any case, I think that covers everything, unless anyone else has anything else to add.
No.
I just want to add that you should really pick up, if you can find it, the Shout Factory Blu-ray, which is stuffed to the gills with information about.
Dude, I got it for $5.
Also, I recommend because several years ago John Carpenter wrote a sequel comic book series, which I strongly it picks up exactly where the movie left off, and exactly where the movie left off.
That was by Boom Comics, right?
Yes, I strongly recommend reading.
Solid brand.
Oh yeah.
I would just say definitely just watch it several times. Don't write this off on the first watch if it doesn't quite click with you. It's one of those movies too you can show anybody because it's not really like genre specific. It's not a horror film. It's not a fantasy movie. It's just sort of the movie that it is. I think you said it, Forrest. It kind of has its own genre. Yeah. Just show fucking Big Trouble in Little China to someone that hasn't seen it immediately. I think that should be a challenge that everybody who watches this movie for the first time should partake in. So get out there and do it.
Alrighty.
That's it.
You wanted to start us out with your outro.
Oh shit! Drunken Master Studios. I ain't doing shit. I did a review for like a couple of really horrible Asian movies. One of them really good, one of them bad in a bad kind of way. Check those out. Also, I'm gonna be just doing other fucking reviews eventually. So, thanks for having me, man.
Definitely, man. What about you, Dustin? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What you do?
Well, I'm horror collector and student living here in Milwaukee. I show off the stuff that I find on my YouTube channel, The Crypt of Horrors, as well as my Instagram, The Crypt of Horrors. I haven't had a video upload for a little while, but go subscribe and you'll get stuff eventually. I still need to do an unboxing for the Friday the 13th set. And I'm kind of posting more on Instagram lately too. So, yeah, give me a follow.
Alrighty. What about you, Brandon? Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
I'm Septimus Sin of Septimus Sin versus the World. We like our movies and this and physical. Who doesn't? And we do various things. Our main bread and butter is our new releases and pickup videos, but we do other things. A couple let's plays. May or may not have those this week, but I've been going through the Angry Video Game Nerd Adventures Deluxe 1 and 2. Finished the first game, going into the second game in that one. And then, of course, I do a tour of my collection, which I've been doing, where I rate my collection this time since I had the flood and had to restart everything. But we still keep doing it. And I'm working on a new review of the new Dakota Ray film, which will come out as soon as I can thoroughly watch it. I've got it now, and just need to do a good thorough watch and review. But that's my next review up, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, I also work for Inside Movies Galore to help set things up for those of you who may be in the various groups, and I'm going to list them so that you can go to Facebook and sign up for these groups to join us in our voting and helping us select our films. Those are Movie Collectors, Moe's Tavern, Talk Movies with Us, and Anime Collectors Inc., which we featured a lot of times in our Sort of the Stranger review. So if you like anything to do with movies, you should join up with at least one, if not all these groups, and then you've got like a whole bunch of votes you can just throw out there. Speaking of which, next week is supposed to be Dustin's birthday week. Did you have a choice for us, Dustin, or two choices, or what? Or do you want me to hold off a week?
I think I would like to do The Color Out of Space.
All right.
Yeah.
Would you be okay if we paired the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with that as the pre-show?
Yeah, I'd really like to see Ninja Turtles again too.
Cool.
Good
That way
times.
we can finally get it in there because we're going to lose it. So that'll be good. So next week we'll have pre-show Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Color Out of Space or Color Space, whatever it was.
Color out of space.
Color of
Thank you.
Space.
And as our main show. And we're going to be all up in our celebration then and there. So y'all have a good one.
Alrighty. What about you, Jake?
I am Kodabuki Jake. I'm co-star on Septimus Sin versus World. I co-host whatever you want to say. I'm tired. I can't speak. We movie collector fan, would be reviewer. Don't usually have time, but it's on the agenda. And of course, I always like to hop in on this channel and Delusions of Grandeur and throw in my 2 cents. Brandon, I don't know if you mentioned the ongoing Friday the 13th series. I think we're continuing.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I had forgotten about that, but yeah, we're going up next week. This week we just did 5 and 6 and 7 and 8. We're finishing the numbered ones next week.
And I'm so excited, you can tell. And
you love those movies. They're like your favorite films of all time.
and of course, we had another good discussion tonight. It was Horror of the Stranger, and I'm looking forward to Ninja Turtles. I've got an excuse to watch my copy now. So, and then of course, what is it? How many Mondays we got left in this month? 2. So is it 2 weeks from now? Is it 2 weeks from now? We don't. Yeah. So we have an upcoming discussion on Kino no Tabi, aka Kino's Journey, one of the greatest shows ever made. And there's a pretty decent remake. So we'll be talking mainly about the one and a little bit about the other. Looking forward to that. And I'll just go ahead and mention again that I recently threw some money in on 2 movies through Kickstarter. The Curve, I think, is still available for viewing, at least on Vimeo, maybe YouTube. I haven't checked this week, but it should be. And then the Tipping the Pain Scale will be coming out soon. So, good times.
Nice. And Forrest, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
All right. My name is Forrest Bennett. I'm based in Long Island, New York. Big movie and comic book movie and comic book fan. Also executive producer on the web series Toxic America, which is on Vimeo on demand. And this Friday the 13th, I will be going on a road trip to Hardwick, New Jersey, where Friday the 13th was filmed. So, which I'm looking forward to. We can't wait to tell you guys about it.
And that is a historical event for you.
We're looking forward to it as well.
So,
for sure.
congratulations on being able to get over there to that camp. Hopefully, you come back not in pieces. So, in any case,
maybe you'll be the final girl in this one.
Who knows? But in any case, my name is David Streggy. I am one of the founding fathers of Inside Movies Galore. So thank you for coming along with us on this journey. I know it's been a long haul. We've had a great couple of months here. Definitely going into some deeper martial arts territory with this martial arts mayhem month. So I am definitely hyped about that. But I also moonlight under a different channel called Delusions of Grandeur, where I do some video pickup videos and video reviews. And although I haven't really pulled out some video reviews lately, I have been having some discussions with my Croatian friend Boris, where I recently went on about seeking a friend for the end of the world, and next week we are going to be going on about Joe Sherlock's truly dreadful tales, a collection of short films that he was involved with and whatnot. Wanted to skirt that territory a little bit since that is kind of the how I kind of got to know my friend Boris anyways. So. But that being said, thank you for listening. Have a great day, evening, or morning, wherever you are. And hopefully there will be no demons anytime near us. And as Jack said, I guess we battled a little in hell or whatever. There was a line that he said something about at the end of the movie where I guess we battled in our own level of hell. Or what was the line, guys? Do you know?
I don't recall.
But in any case, everyone say good night.
Good night.
Night.